Welcome back to Hot Topics TV, y'all. Y'all already know if the topic is hot, we're on it. I done told y'all, right? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Listen, I done told y'all everybody is flipping on Young Thug. A lot of people, right now, prosecution is saying they're going to be calling over 33 people, 33 witnesses when this trial goes to trial or when this case goes to trial. Over 33 witnesses. There's a whole bunch of people within the YSL organization that have already decided that they are going to be spilling the beans. Okay, the two people you did not expect was Gunna, and Gunna is already out. And I've already showed you the video where Gunna is in court. People are asking, first of all, why y'all calling Gunna a snitch? All right, Gunna ain't the only one that got a deal. Walter Murphy, who is accused of or is the co-founder of YSL with Young Thug, he got out too, and he got a deal. We're going to talk about Walter in a second. Let me just explain to the people who don't understand why what Gunna did is actually flipping. I'm not going to call it telling or snitching. I'm going to call it flipping. He flipped. He's now working for the prosecution. Why? Because the prosecution has established that YSL is not just a record label or a musical entity. It is actually a violent street gang. Okay? Young Thug is sitting in lockup, still maintaining that YSL is not a gang. YSL is a music entity. It's my record company. We have artists on our roster. We do music. So for Gunna to come into court, and he is asked, cross-examined and asked by prosecution, hey, do you agree that YSL is not just a music entity, but it is also a gang? He said, yes, I agree. It's a gang. Do you agree that YSL must come to an end, or an end must be put to it? Do you agree that you have caused certain types of things within your community and all this other stuff? Nothing positive, just negative shit. And he said yes, yes, yes to all of that. You got to understand the tables, the case. See, in order for a prosecution to be able to do anything, they would have to first prove that YSL is a gang. Because if it's just a music record label, then nothing can happen. You can't criminalize people for putting together a music organization like Sony and Epic Records and doing music. But they can show, if they can show that this is a front for a criminal organization, then they can hit them with the racketeering charges. And without the racketeering charges, there's no RICO. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, he gave it up. Now, let's get on to Walter Murphy. Walter Murphy, when I last saw, like, shout out to College Kid, Walter Murphy, an alleged co-founder of the YSL collective, had surrendered to the police, right? Walter turned himself into the police after he was named in a massive indictment. That's when the indictments came down, alleging that he and other associates participated in criminal street gang activities. Prosecutor says that Murphy co-founded YSL along with fellow defendant Young Thug and a third individual who was not being identified. Now, though the state of Georgia describes the collective as an affiliate of the National Blood Gang, Murphy insists that YSL is more like a record label or a family, he said. Once upon a time, I actually road managed at that label, is what he told the police back then. Murphy, Thug, and 26 other people are accused of violating Georgia's Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Organizations Act, RICO. Other defendants include rapper Gunna, who just flipped, YSL Duke, Yak Gotti, and Unfunk, among others. Murphy is facing a single count of RICO conspiracy, but as WSB TV points out, the 88-page indictment also said that Murphy is accused of aggravated assault as well as being involved in an attempted murder involving 4 people. So today we fast forward to the headlines, and the headlines says that Walter Murphy has secured a deal and has gotten out of lockup as well. Young Thug was denied bond again and sent back to lockup. So right now, the question remains is, should Young Thug just go ahead and play game with the prosecution? Because, I mean, everybody, all his soldiers already jumped ship. All his partners already flipped. So what is the use of standing still, saying the same thing over and over? We are not a gang, when you have Murphy and you have Gunna saying we acknowledge that we are a gang, a dangerous street gang. Gunna went further to answer the damn question when he was asked. She says, do you admit to knowing or having knowledge of criminal activities or crimes that were committed by members of the gang or associates of the gang in order to further the gang? And Gunna said, yes, it is along these same lines that Murphy now finds himself and cut his own plea deal. This shit, listen, all right, so check it out. Let me give you this whole thing right here. And shout out to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. 2 co-defendants, including Atlanta rapper Gunna, have entered negotiated guilty plea ahead of the RICO trial against the alleged Young Slime Life gang scheduled to start next month in January of 2023. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office confirmed Walter Murphy entered a guilty plea on Tuesday, and Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens, entered a guilty plea on Wednesday on a single count of conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Organizations Act. Each, according to court documents, Murphy was actually sentenced to 10 years right away. Catch this. With 1 year commuted to time served and 9 years on probation as part of the negotiated plea deal. So you telling me right now, if Young Thug could just get the same deal, sentenced to 10 years, 1 year time served, the next 9 years on probation, that he shouldn't take it? He should take this to court after everybody else already flipped on him? He's about to go see some football numbers if he takes this to court, right? Kitchens, which is Gunna, he was sentenced to 5 years, with 1 year commuted to time served and the rest of the 4 years of his sentence suspended and subject to special conditions, including 500 hours of community service. He, Gunna, is required to spend 350 hours speaking to young men and women about the hazards and the immorality of gangs and gang violence and the decay it causes in the community, his attorney Steve Sato said. My focus for YSL was entertainment, rap artists who wrote and performed music that exaggerated and glorified urban life in the black community. This is what Gunna said. I love and I cherish my association with YSL music, and I always will. I look at this as an opportunity to give back to my community and educate young men and women that gangs and violence only lead to destruction. In a statement that was released through his attorney, Gunna said that he had entered an Alford plea. We talked about this already, right? Which, in a guilty plea to the one charge against him in the indictment, he said the Alford plea was in his best interest and allowed him to maintain his innocence. I don't see how. Shadow said that Kitchen's sentence would be terminated after completion of his community service, and he is to have no contact with co-defendants, no guns, and All right, so Kitchen was sentenced to 5 years with 1 year commuted to time served and the rest of his 4 year sentence suspended and subject to special conditions, including he too got to do 500 hours of community service and he's required to spend 350 hours just like Gunner. 350 hours. Yeah, that's Kitchen is Gunner. 350 hours doing the whole talking to students about gangs and all that. In a statement that was released through his attorney, he said that he entered the Alford plea. Saddle said Kitchen's sentence would be terminated after the completion of his community service. So then he gets off scot-free because the only thing he has to do now is not keep any guns around him. So he's going to have to hire security. If called by any part during the trial, whether it's for the prosecution or for the defense, he reserved the right to assert his Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. The defense team is extremely pleased that he got this type of a sentence, and special conditions now on Murphy's probation is that Murphy testify truthfully in any further trial as it may become necessary. Wow. So that's agreeing to snitch, my dude, because what else are you going to tell truthfully? You already have charges, right? Serious charges. And now you're about to testify for some community service. What do you call that? State of Georgia and other individuals that are named in the indictment, Murphy along with Atlanta rapper Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, and Gunna were among 28 people in the sweeping gang indictment. Authorities says that Williams and Kitchens are leaders in the gang. Remember, Kitchen meaning Gunna. Williams and Kitchen are leaders in the gang. Attorney for the rappers have contested the charges for months, arguing in hearings and court filings that YSL is just a record label, not a violent gang. Well, that was until we saw Gunna in court. And they asked him, and he said, yes, it's a gang. In a statement, Gunna said that he joined YSL in 2016 and he did not consider it a gang back then, and more like a common group with common interests and artistic aspirations. Gunna said that he has no intentions of testifying during the trial. While I have agreed to always be truthful, I want to make it perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for any against this party. Now, here's the thing. I think he did damage already. He said enough. All right. Prosecutors are expected to call more than 300 witnesses during the trial, which is expected to take 6 to 9 months. Murphy's lawyer, who is Jacoby Hudson, told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that he is not sure if his client will be called up to testify against other co-defendants, but he said that Murphy is ready to move on from all of this. My client doesn't know anything. Now, during a lot of the acts, they are alleging he was actually in prison, so he couldn't have been out doing them. My client doesn't know anything. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office presented the plea deal to Hudson a week or so ago. He said that after discussion with Murphy, they felt that it was the best thing to do in his interest, of course, because if they didn't, you see how much time they're facing. And this is the reason why I said Thug might as well go ahead and throw the towel in, because there ain't no need in standing 10 toes down now when everybody else around you already folded and they're all pointing in your direction. They already said enough. Murphy alleged was involved in an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in 2013 and an attempted murder involving 4 different victims in 2015. During a bond hearing in June, Hudson said that Murphy had already faced charges on those incidents and had already pled guilty or guilty to reduced charges. Murphy had spent 7 years in prison on criminal street gang, aggravated assault, and aggravated battery charges from a 2015 case. Murphy was out on parole when he was named in the YSL indictment, and he got right back out again by copping a deal like Gunna did. Murphy is alleged to have co-founded YSL gang with Williams, which is Young Thug, and co-defendant, another person by the name of Trontavious Stevens, three of them, in 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area, according to the indictment. Murphy has a tattoo with the letters YSL on his forehead. Now, in an interview with Channel 2 Action News, Murphy said that YSL was not a gang. I would rather say it's more like a record label or a family. Now, once upon a time, I was actually a road manager. According to court documents, Murphy is also required to spend 300 hours of community service, with a substantial portion of it being spent doing the same thing that Gunna has been ordered to do, which was talking to young men and women at locations that will be determined by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office about the dangers and the immorality of gangs and gang violence. If Murphy completes all the conditions successfully and has no violations of the law greater than a high and aggravated misdemeanor, his probation will be suspended after 5 years. According to court documents, Murphy is not allowed any contact with any co-defendant on the incident. So that means Thugger can no longer speak to Murphy, and he can no longer speak to Gunna. Gunna and Murphy can no longer speak to Thugger. Murphy turned himself in June of this year, 2022, after his name came up in all of this. And back then, he admitted to being co-founder of YSL with Young Thug and that other person. The guilty plea comes days after co-defendant Cordarius Dorsey, another one, was sentenced to life in prison for a 2019 DeKalb County murder. Authorities said that Dorsey also held a leadership position in YSL. So you see, they sent him to prison for life first, right in front of them. And then they said, you next. So what's up? What do you want to do? And they're like, hey man, I'll take the plea deal. I don't want to be wrong and strong no more. I don't want to fight no more. Let me take this plea deal. So that is what they did. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. I'll catch you on the next video. It's Hot Topics TV. You already know if the topic is hot, we're on it. I'm out. Peace.